people keep saying, I will think about it on your sales call, this is a hidden reason why. And it's not your offer and it's not your pricing. And it's not that people suddenly can't afford to pay you when you've sold before. You can be speaking to someone about your work or on a sales call, and the response you get is not what you expected, not what you hoped for. They say they need to think about it. They don't decide on the call. They go quiet afterwards. They're ghosting you. And afterwards, this is when you might find yourself going back over the conversation, going back over that sales call, thinking about what you said, what you could have said differently, or whether you needed to explain it better or in a different way. Now, you might even start thinking about how am I going to handle this next time? Or what am I going to change next time so that things go differently? And what happens is your focus is going straight onto the other person and what has just happened. Because from our point of view in the moment, we showed up properly. You said what you needed to say. Nothing obviously went wrong from what you normally do, but they didn't just jump in and give you a yes like you thought they would, like what's happened before. And I know how frustrating that this can be. And what I'm going to show you in this video today is why this keeps on happening, even when you feel like you're doing everything right. I'm Gifford, I'm a manifestation coach, and I specialize in shadow work and imposter syndrome and identity work, all through the lens of the law of assumption. Now, I work with people who already understand manifestation, but can't seem to make it consistent in their reality. They know what they do, they've seen it work before, but they can't get the same results to happen over and over on repeat. What I focus on is stabilizing identity, so what you already know actually reflects into your life time and time again. Everything I teach is based on how your inner world shapes your results. Now, not what you say once, but what you consistently return to. And if you want to go deeper into this work, subscribe and follow along, because I break this down step by step every week in my videos. This is usually the point where people find their way into my free school community because they want support actually to apply this properly instead of trying to work it out on their own. And this is exactly where this starts to show up, especially in how people respond to you. So if you see this playing out over and over again, people showing up on the sales calls or saying no or saying they need more time and ghosting you do not just leave it there. What happens is you'll spiral into overthinking. You start thinking your business is not working, something has changed. Maybe this is the point where it all stops working and you need to go and start searching for a job. And the next thing you know, you're searching and scrolling on the job boards again. And this happens faster than you think. At the same time, you are still looking at what is happening externally, thinking it must be your messaging, your offer, or the people that you're speaking to. And that is what makes this whole situation so frustrating, because you know you can sell, you've already done it, but you cannot clearly see what is actually causing things to be working out differently and showing up differently now. So if it's not the person on the call and it's not the external factors like no one having money or people suddenly have stopped paying for what it is that you sell, and it's not even that what you're doing has suddenly stopped working, then what is it? This is the part that most people actually never look at. From the outside, it looks like it's happened in the moment. But trust me, it did not start in this moment right now. What happens on the call is a reflection of the version of you that was present before the call even started. So the way you've been thinking, what have you been expecting, and what you have felt now is normal for you. Every thought and every assumption and every expectation leading up to that conversation shapes how you show up. The doubts, the worries, and the questions about whether they're going to say yes shows up in how you speak, how you listen, and how you hold the conversation. That is actually the energy that people respond to. So when someone is hesitating, saying they need to think about it or not deciding, it's never random. They are responding to the version of you that was there before you even said anything. So if you've been expecting and hesitating and probably expecting a no, or that people do not have the money at the moment, this is what's going to get reflected back to you, because that is what you were in before the conversation started. And this is what people mean from what Neville Goddard says: everyone is you pushed out. So it doesn't mean people are being controlled by you, but they do reflect back what you have been expecting and what you've been dominantly thinking. The hesitation, the uncertainty, and the lack of the decision, even if it was subconscious and you didn't know you were thinking about it, what you see is them reflecting back what you brought into the situation. Now, of course, you can go back over the call and think about what you said or what you could have done differently, but the response was already aligned with who you were before you got on the call. And that is why you keep on seeing the same thing repeated now. Because if you keep returning to the same expectations, the same doubts, the same ways of seeing it, you will keep seeing the same type of response. It's not coming from the situation changing, it's coming from the same version of you being reflected back to you time and time again. So if this is what has been happening to you, the shift is never going to be what has actually been happening in the conversation on the sales call. It's not at this moment in time that you need to say things better. You need to start changing your offer and trying to handle it differently. Now, I'm not saying there's never any strategy involved. I teach a lot of strategy to my clients as well. But the first thing I'm always going to teach them is the shift is in becoming aware of the version of you that you're stepping into before you even get onto the call with that client or that potential client. Because once you can see that, this is when you can stop reacting to what is happening and start to choose. So instead of going into those conversations trying to get the results or hoping it's going to go the way you want, you need to move into the version of you who already sees the people saying yes. That version of you where it's normal for everybody to move forward with you, where it's expected. It means returning to that position, that state, before anything external has a chance to influence you. So you're not adjusting in the moment, you are already there. And from that place, what you say and how you say it and how you hold the conversation and the energy and the frequency that you bring comes from that version of you naturally. So you're not trying to get them to decide, you are speaking from the version of you where the decision is already made, already assumed, already done. This is the wish fulfilled that Neville talks about. You feel it as if it's real in yourself first. You carry it, you live it, and that is what shows up on the outside. You act from that version of you, and the responses you get naturally mirror that state you're holding inside back to you. And this is exactly what we build deeper inside the reset. Stabilizing that wish fulfilled version of you properly before you go to take the action. Get your energy right, be in the state, be in the frequency. Now, you're not going to stay in that version of you all of the time straight away. We are humans. We are going to notice ourselves slipping back into overthinking, reacting, and focusing on what is happening externally again. Now, like I said, I'm not saying never focus on strategy. In my Maverick Academy, it's identity and then strategy. And that is completely normal for as a human for overthinking and spiraling to come up. Our job, the work for us, is to notice when you have done that, when you have started spiraling, when you have started putting the emphasis onto something outside of you, and gently bring yourself back to that version of you who already holds the wish fulfilled, who knows the result is already true internally, inevitable. The more you practice returning to the state, the easier you're going to find it becomes to stay there, and you will start to see people reflect that yes back to you. So start today from a month before you go back onto sales calls. Start stepping into that version of you now. Build your frequency, build your energy, live in that version of the wish fulfilled. Talk about the sales calls as if you always get yeses. Talk about your one-to-ones or your group programs growing. Talk about this so that you can start living from that identity now and start then you will show up like subconsciously as that person already when you go into that call. So as long as you have the strategy for the sales call nailed, the main thing after that that influences whether you get yeses to people joining is your energy, your frequency, the state that you're having that conversation from. So let's take this into something real that we can practice. So notice the next time you are going into a conversation, not after the conversation, but this time before the conversation. Notice and be aware, where does your mind start going? What might happen in that conversation? What might they say in that conversation? Is the conversation going to work and go in your favor? And instead of following that, because you're aware of it now, you can change the narrative of that story. You can start to play that story out in your mind and tell yourself you already have the outcome that you desire. It's already done. Everything is moving forward in the way that is favorable to you. You already have a yes. This is living from the wish fulfilled. And get into that version of you, not check in and not waiting to see what happens, but from the position where it's already done. It already feels that everything is done for you. And then persist in that and come back to it. Come back to it if you move out of that position. hold on to it because that is what gets reflected back to you next.